Mr. Tickle in the park. Mr. Tickle was out in the park. It was a sunny day, and the children were all on holiday from school. "What a good day for tickling!" thought Mr. Tickle. A gardener was sweeping up some dead leaves. Mr. Tickle reached out and tickled him. The gardener fell into the pile of leaves. "It's a good job you had a soft place to fall," said Mr. Tickle. At the edge of the park, there was a group of trees. Mr. Bounce was walking under a low bough. Suddenly, a long arm appeared from behind a tree and tickled Mr. Bounce, which made him jump. Woohoo! He bounced up to the bough and hit his head. Poor Mr. Bounce. But as soon as Mr. Bounce hit the ground, he bounced high into the air again. Whee! He bounced past Mr. Tickle, right to the top of the tree. Next, Mr. Tickle went to the boating lake. Mr. Worry was in a rowing boat in the middle of the lake. Mr. Tickle stretched out his arm and tickled Mr. Worry. Mr. Worry dropped his oars. They disappeared into the lake. "Oh dear," said Mr. Worry. "How am I going to get back without any oars?" Mr. Tickle reached out his arm again, and he pulled the boat to the edge of the lake. Soon, Mr. Worry was back on dry land. On the other side of the lake, Mr. Wrong was feeding the crumbs to the swans. "I'm feeding the hens," said Mr. Wrong. "Those are swans, not hens," said Mr. Tickle. Then Mr. Tickle reached out a long arm to tickle one of the ducks. The duck was cross. It pecked Mr. Tickle's finger. "Ouch! It serves you right," said Mr. Wrong. "Parrots don't like being tickled." Some of Mr. Tickle's friends were playing hide and seek in the woods. Mr. Sneeze hid in a clump of ferns, but Mr. Happy could hear him sneezing and found him. Mr. Nosey hid behind a bush, but Mr. Happy saw his nose sticking out among the leaves. Mr. Skinny hid in the grass. He lay very still. The long arm reached out and tickled him. He leapt up and Mr. Happy saw him straight away. In another part of the park, Mr. Tickle found Mr. Strong and Mr. Forgetful playing with a bat and ball. Mr. Forgetful had forgotten what to do with the bat, so Mr. Strong reminded him. "You're supposed to hit the ball with the bat," Mr. Strong explained. Mr. Strong was about to throw the ball when something tickled him. The ball flew out of his hand and over to the greenhouse. Smash! Went a window. Mr. Tickle ran away as fast as he could. Inside the greenhouse, Mr. Silly was smelling all the flowers. Then something tickled his head. Mr. Silly looked round. All he could see was a tall plant with prickly leaves. "It's a tickling plant!" cried Mr. Silly. He did not see Mr. Tickle hiding behind a plant pot. Mr. Silly told everybody that he'd been tickled by a tickling plant, but nobody believed him. Later, Mr. Tickle found Mr. Daydream sitting on a bench in the rose garden. Mr. Daydream was daydreaming again. In his dream, he was sitting by the sea in a faraway country. There was a fountain by the bench. It made a splashing sound. Mr. Daydream thought this was the sound of the waves in his daydream. Then something tickled Mr. Daydream. He stopped daydreaming and looked around. Who do you think it was? Mr. Jelly was feeling very brave. He had to go on the slide in the play park. But when he got to the top, he was afraid to slide down. Mr. Rush was standing behind him on the ladder. "Hurry up!" cried Mr. Rush. "I'm waiting!" But Mr. Jelly still held on tightly. Then a long arm reached up and tickled Mr. Jelly. He let go of the edge and whoosh! Next thing he knew, he was at the bottom of the slide. Soon afterwards, Mr. Tickle found Mr. Fussy and his friends having a picnic. They did not see Mr. Tickle hiding behind a bush. Mr. Tickle tickled Mr. Clumsy, who was drinking some lemonade. It spilled all over the clean white tablecloth. Mr. Fussy looked a bit upset, so Mr. Tickle tickled him to cheer up. What do you think happened to the cake Mr. Fussy had in his hand? But at the end of the day, Mr. Tickle was very tired and thirsty. He went to the cafe for a nice cold drink. But Mr. Tickle could not keep his hands still for so long. He tickled a lady at the next table and made us fill a coffee.
Oh, Mr. Tickle, you silly Mr. Man. You made me spill my coffee everywhere, and that was the best drink I ever had.
He tickled the waitress and made her drop her tray.
Oi! Stop it, Mr. Tickle. You made me drop the tray and spill cutlery and cups everywhere. I'm not paid much for this, you know.
Then he was time to go. And when he got home, Mr. Tickle thought about all the people he tickled that day. There were so many that he was still trying to think of them all when he went to bed.
Mr. This and Mr. That are dropping by for a friendly chat to show you round the Mr. World. Who knows when you're gonna meet that funny little fella with the small round feet? Don't you know they're all about you? Climb down, sit down, pull up a chair. Can't you see the Mr. Men are everywhere? You must not miss your friend.